Hello, welcome to my channel. My latest project. I will show, I make these blankets. This is my design, and it's got the train up a child verse from Proverbs. And I do different borders. But for the most part, the interior, the wording is the same. I've made it smaller over the years because it was just too big to begin with, and smaller gets done faster. And I started doing a border, and I wanted to do the checkerboard, and I looked online, and you can check for yourself, but I didn't like the results that you normally saw. And what you did is you would go around, like if you started here, which is where I started, you would do the yellow, and then you would tuck the yellow yarn inside there when you did the green, and then tuck the green into the yellow, so you can kind of see a little bit. It didn't show up that much, but I wanted to be able to do the rows, and I was trying to go this way, but I ended up going perpendicular, and I would do what amounted to 5 rows. Initially I didn't. You'll see I got some big ones here, but I got a little bit more uniformed as I started learning the best ways to do it. And then I try to do the borders with yellow and green, and I didn't like the way it looked. I tried to do it with the white, and it just kind of went blah. It just kind of, so I pulled out a darker yarn, and it's actually a bigger yarn than these 3 others. And I liked this, and I went around and I did 1 row of single stitch all the way around, and then a reverse single or crab stitch. And I liked the way that looked. And then this looked too blah against the white, where I had the white border. So I went through and just did a single stitch on top, and then did a crab stitch here. So I really like the way this turned out. And I will show you how I did this. And the next one, I hope to do a better job of it. I'll be more consistent at the very start. And here at the corner, I had to, I'll explain in the video, but I had to where it would come out with a different square, so that I didn't have a yellow and yellow there. So anyway, what do you think? I like the border. I'm going to do this again, even though it probably took me longer to do the border and figure it out than it took me to do the blanket. The blankets used to take me, when I timed it before, about 40 hours. Here and there, watching TV, doctor's appointments with my mom. I don't go to very many doctor's appointments since she's passed, but whenever I'm having to sit and wait, and I can crochet, that's what I do. So here's the rest. I started out by just chaining 5 with the yellow, and then went back and forth. It's kind of inconsistent. You see how some big. I wasn't really paying as close attention to the pattern. I was just trying to make them more squarish. And I should have gone back and undid it, but I'm going to leave it as is. This is my first attempt at this. So after I did this square, rectangle, I chained and did this one. And when I got here, I came back across and went down, and I'll show you. And then start off, let's see, getting everything in position. You're working this way. So single crochet, there's 5 of them. I I know that's called a single crochet in the United States. Not sure. I forgot what it's called in the UK and Australia. It's different terminology, but you can see what I'm doing. Got to get it in that fifth one. And here's where you're attaching it to the other square, check square. See, I got 3. It's got 5 rows that I'm going up, and I just used 2 of them because this covers the going, away and then back again rows. Got to play around with it. I'm sure that there is a better way or prettier way, because it does how it looks on this side looks better than it looks on this side. I think it still looks good, and I like this better than the other method that I saw on YouTube about doing checkerboard. So I do 2 again. Kind of want it tight. I don't want those to be loose. Whoops. Lost part of that yarn. So now some of you may notice I kind of hold my needle, the hook, differently. It's what I'm used to doing. It's how I learned to do it. I know some people hold it like a pencil. I just can't. I mean, it's just muscle memory. You do whatever's comfortable for you. Now, you have to stay consistent with your colors. If this was the green yarn, I'd have the yellow pulled this way onto this side and hooked it this way. But since this is the other way, the other colors, I always put the green toward the what would be the front of the afghan. And you just continue chaining. That's probably not the proper way, but you notice I just went up a row from where I was. This is how I'm doing this one. I'm going to do some more checks, and I'm going to play around with this a little bit more on the next one, but this is how I'm keeping it consistent after all the inconsistencies at the beginning. And just like I did on the this thing, I just got 2 of the stitches and pulled it. And chain 1. And again, it's 5 single crochets, American single crochets. And I'm doing 5 rows, excuse me. I knew that was wrong. Coffee's still not kicked in. So this is the second row, third row. And I'm going to go ahead, and it seems to work better when I do 2 for the first 2 attachments, because you see where this 1, 2, and then 1, 2. So that's 4 rows. Turn it over. That's too loose. Get that loop tightened down. Doing 5 of these stitches and then chain 1 to start the next row. I got a new gadget for my camera so I can watch it. Let me get back to, and hopefully I can stabilize with the software the bouncing that's happening here. I'll show that in another video. So now that I've done 4 rows, this is the 5th row, yes. So I'm just going to do the 1 and pull through. And you always need to end in the on the edge of the square away from the afghan. So chain 1, and you just basically repeat with the next color. So you are always going to do 2 squares with each color, and then do 2, and they're going to be diagonal. And the corner is going to be a little different. You're gonna, because I will show that too shortly, but you just keep doing that until you go around, and got to remember the 5 stitches out and taking 5 rows across or up and down depending on how you're looking at this. Here I'm transitioning the other color. So this one, instead of being pulled back when I was doing the yellow yarn over to the green square, this one you pull forward. So whatever you're alternating with, one color will go to, I have the green on the front side, what would be the front side of the afghan, and the yellow is the back side. I'm going to the square here as I start the next square. Here I'm showing where I'm reaching a corner, and I normally do 5, and depending on how many stitches are left, there's only 4 left, so I can't do a whole normal square that I've been doing, but that's no problem. Let me get it up there. I've also started doing the sides differently when I attach the colors together. Getting the yarn on this side, it's a little awkward, but I like the way it looks. Now you can see the 3 loops. Just pull that through. But this is now on the back side of the afghan, and I like the way this looks, but most of the afghan, this is on the front. Pretty simple. So these 2 squares are a little shorter, but you work them just the same. Normally, if I was still attaching, I would do one more row to go over this way. But I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to do it, transition around. Not do the typical corner where you do 3 in that stitch. In the corner stitches you do 3 to go around it. This one would not exactly doing that. It's not going to be a corner. So you notice I'm not finished with the corner yet. Still got to do the yellow, but I'm just going to continue to work with the green until I get to finish this last green square before I transition to the yellow. It's really just the way I'm working it. If you come up with a better method, please share. I am sure this can be done in a better way. I just looked for a way to do a checkerboard, and I tried the other methods and I just didn't like the way it ended up looking and how I was working. And to my mind, this, even though it's a little awkward, I like it. I'm sure anyone gifted this is not going to complain that I did this check in an odd way. They probably won't even know. They may notice some of the squares, especially at the beginning, weren't as consistent as the other side of it. It's actually the top of the blanket that's a little wonky. And here we go. Whatever you alter, you have to remember to, however you change this or whatever you're doing, it's consistency throughout the whole piece that really makes it. So this is my first one doing it this way. Doing it from the back side, which is actually the front of the afghan. So if I do this again, I'm going to turn the afghan over, so just so I can get that look to the front. So learn from my mistakes. It's always better to learn from someone else's mistakes. That's a smart person. Now, because how we normally end the squares is not going to work. It's going to be different in the corners. Normally we transition up and go across here to start the next square, but we're not. We're on the corner of the border. Get in there. So if you did end it over here, that's fine too, but the way I did these, they're going to end here. I'm leaving a little tail. in this for now, because I will come back and crochet all the way around this again. So now got to start the yellow again, and what the method I prefer, and it may not be the best method, so go ahead and start a loop. This is where the loop would have been, or where it normally was. Go ahead and just chain. And I'm going to hide the tail. That would have been the corner where I said normally you do corners with a 3, but here, see, that's why I didn't do the 3. And now, just like the rest, I'm back to what I was doing before. So, I didn't like the way this was showing up on the front, so I changed it. If you can see the difference, it doesn't bubble out. Here, I'll show you at the beginning. So that I like the other side better, so I just kind of did the different stitching, and I figured out about halfway up on the last side that I was going to end up with the green square here, which would have then had a yellow and yellow next to each other, and green and green. So I added, I was doing 5 of the stitches on the border, which is the vertical, the way I was going this way. So for 5 of them I did 6. I just took an extra space. So that took the 5 rows that would have been for 1, so the alternating color ended up correctly up here. And then I did a white border, went around about halfway, and I just didn't like the way that was going to look because it does kind of wash out. And I tried using a yellow and the same green, and it just kind of seemed a little bit more blah. So I used a darker green, did a single stitch all the way around, and then did the what's called a reverse single or a crab stitch. I like the way that just kind of finishes it off nicely. And with babies, you don't want a lot of things. I wanted to do something frilly, but that's really not a good choice with baby blankets. Lap blankets, okay, but then because of the green here, see, it just kind of washes out when you look at it this way. So, as you saw in the finished product, this will go all the way around. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I like, if I'm doing this again, which I will probably do the single white around the border and then use a dark color or a contrasting, a third color, one that's different from the checkerboard, and then do that and then come back out. And I really like this crab stitch. I think it just turns out nicely, and you can do it from either side. And I did it this way because if I had it reversed, I would want it to look like that. But of course you can't do I don't think you can add on to the crab stitch once it's done. You can't stitch without, it's kind of funky. It's real, so I've done the crab stitch finish, but not with the checkerboard. This is the first time I've done the checkerboard. And like I said, I came up with my own method, and I had some bugs with this that I didn't like. I stated a couple of times that I didn't like the way this looked, and I should have been working with this facing me instead of it me working from the back part this way, because that looks a lot better, I think. And then I reversed it to this side. And I probably should have just kept the tails when I started, when I made the next square, either push them all to the front or to the back. I didn't need to have one color front and the other color to the back. Some things I'm learning as I'm going. I'm going to do this again and make another video. See, I don't know what I did there to have such a big hole. And then when I pull, it's not like that everywhere. So it's little consistency errors. Another one there. But of course, you know, when you make something, you see all the flaws. So what do you think? And if you crochet, if you know what I did wrong or what I could do better, or how you might do it differently, please let me know. I like to get some feedback. Thanks for watching. Be a blessing and be blessed.